Welcome to Analytics Nexus. Thanks for joining us for the presentation, Demonstrate Value Fast, Tactics to Drive Momentum with New Marketing Technology Deployments by Ed Hewett, Director of Digital and Marketing Analytics Technology at Hilton.
Thank you for joining this session where we're going to discuss 3 tactics you can use to drive momentum and accelerate value on your next MarTech deployment. Over the past 3.5 years, I've been building a team at Hilton focused on driving digital business optimizations through strategic and tactical delivery of best-in-class digital and marketing analytics technologies. My team just concluded the deployment of our next-generation approach to digital audience management, and I'm thrilled to share a few of the insights and tactics we leveraged that made our deployment a smashing success. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few reasons Hilton is such a fantastic company to be a part of. Hilton is a leading global hospitality company with a portfolio of 18 world-class brands comprising nearly 6,000 properties across 117 countries and territories. Dedicated to fulfilling its mission to be the world's most hospitable company, Hilton has welcomed billions of guests over its 100-year history. Keeping guests at the heart of everything we do, Hilton has developed game-changing technologies and offerings to enhance the guest experience, including digital key and connected room, and partnerships with Amazon and Lyft. Through our award-winning guest loyalty program, Hilton Honors, more than 100 million members who book directly with Hilton have access to instant benefits. Also, in case you're looking for your next opportunity, Hilton has recently been recognized as the #1 best company to work for by Fortune magazine. All right, why are we here? Organizations are inundated with new technologies, capabilities, and vendors every year within the marketing technology landscape. This visual is a dot-based representation of the 5,000 plus MarTech vendors in the current landscape. The tremendous number of available technologies, the accelerating pace of change, and the small slice of the total footprint your company will own, perhaps just 1 to 2% of the total available technologies, make it critical you extract maximum value out of new MarTech investments made by your company. Today, I'm going to share a few key tactics we used at Hilton to build project momentum and accelerate value realization for our digital audience management program. Why should you care about driving momentum and value realization for your existing and upcoming MarTech projects? Large technology deployments often require years of work before value is realized, risking organizational fatigue, scope creep, and limited value realization. Consider for a moment the marketing technologies owned by your company. Do either of the following 2 scenarios apply? Do you have MarTech that's simply sitting on the shelf? Your organization purchased a solution, but the rollout was delayed, the technology went out of date, and/or value was never realized. Do you have MarTech that's underutilized? Your organization is using a fraction of sold-in capabilities for a solution, which has led to less value realized than expected. Would you like your team's name attached to either of those 2 scenarios? I certainly wouldn't. But if your organization is like mine, both situations will exist within the owned MarTech footprint at your company. Here's 3 strategies you can use to pull your tech off the shelf and get it working fully for you. With our next-generation approach to digital audience management, my team diverged from typical marketing technology deployments by securing co-ownership of the core technology within our organization, hybridizing the center of excellence approach, and reorganizing the rollout plan to grow business value faster than organizational awareness. All 3 tactics combined to drive exceptional results and expedited value realization. When considering a new tool, ownership of the technology is often driven to either a business owner or a technology owner. I've seen both scenarios play out along with their associated adverse consequences. For example, a technical team owning and delivering a solution that no one actually uses. That's the MarTech sitting on the shelf scenario to avoid. Or a business team owning and delivering a tool where the full power is never attained. That's the MarTech is underutilized scenario to avoid. In many cases, I believe choosing a single owner is a false dichotomy. To avoid the common pitfalls we spoke about earlier and deliver maximum benefit, some core technologies should have two owners, a business owner and a technology owner. The business owner is essential to drive value out of the solution for specific use cases and needs. The marketing technology owner is essential for flawless delivery, managing the full range of technical capabilities and driving adoption of the tool to the broader organization. With our recent rollout, this is precisely the strategy we used. Our media team owned the solution from a business standpoint, providing essential business context, overall familiarity with the space, and application of the tool to their primary use cases. My technical team owned delivery of the rollout, drove utilization of the full range of features, and extended the solution to use cases outside of media. On our deployment, the VP of Media and his team, including directors, practitioners, and agency partners, were aligned with the change and were committed to driving value from the new technology. The VP of Analytics was also aligned along with my full technology team, which included directors, practitioners, and our professional services partners. My team was responsible for the overall deployment as well as driving adoption with teams outside of media. Finally, to ensure each group was highly incentivized to deliver success, both groups made a material investment. The business funded the software license, and technology funded the technical delivery resources. While a co-ownership approach does increase complexity, including a need to prioritize use cases, coordinate timelines across teams, and socialize with the broader group, I believe this approach is essential to realizing the full value of organizational investments for foundational marketing technologies. Once you've nailed down your technology ownership, you'll want to plan how to evolve the organizational approach over time. A typical CoE evolution story goes something like this. Key capabilities grow organically within organizational silos. Often parallel or competing technologies are developed and maintained within multiple teams. In the interest of agility and execution, these silos persist until there's a business need to drive delivery excellence and consistency. At that point, the teams and capabilities are centralized, which matures capabilities and processes and creates efficiency. As the capabilities reach full maturity and business needs continue accelerating, delivery responsibilities and resources are shifted back toward the broader organization, often via self-service mechanisms, to drive scale, while a governance center of excellence remains to ensure ongoing continuity, delivery excellence, and best practices. For example, multiple teams may evolve audience management capabilities like for email, personalization, media, etc. Later, all resources and tools will be brought into a single team to create efficiency and consistency. Still later, some resources from the team may be sent back to the business to improve scale, while a core team remains to preserve consistency and provide governance. Rather than trying to pick between or evolve to either a centralized or governance CoE, we chose to move from the organic approach to a hybrid model, which contained elements of both governance and delivery-oriented centers of excellence. Going that route allowed us to provide governance and execution support to a fully engaged media team. Now that's agility at scale, while also providing delivery excellence for use cases outside of the media organization. A centralized approach is good at driving excellence and making sure capabilities are used, but it can also be limited by scaling challenges. A governance model will ensure consistency, but may miss opportunities to drive value from direct delivery. What we were able to do was to leverage the best of both by having a single team handle delivery for some use cases while maintaining a lighter governance role for others. That approach ensured value realization from both our primary business partners and our secondary use cases. Finally, we flipped the typical project timelines to delay organizational awareness until we actually had driven value from the capabilities. You may be wondering what I mean by that. In a normal deployment, after exploring the opportunity and deciding to move forward, you need to get funding. So you socialize that need with the full business and then complete the contracting process. Once all of that is done, the business is aware of the capabilities you are trying to deliver and you have funding secured. You then implement and deploy, and finally, After all of that, you can start to use the tools to create value. On a typical 24-month deployment, the business is made aware of the capabilities 12 to 18 months before you're actually going to begin to drive value. What we did with our deployment was to invert the socialization aspect so that it came just prior to the value realization. You'll need to convince your vendors and supporting technology partners to allow you to do a POC or grant early production access so you can complete a significant chunk of the deployment work prior to bringing the business up to speed. On our project, we did a full production POC and then secured early production access. After that, we went through socialization and contracts, but still limited awareness to the key partner who was the initial focus for our year one deployment. At that point, the primary business stakeholder was fully aware, but that was just prior to the full production deployment and subsequent value realization activities. We pushed really hard to get the production deployment done quickly. Note, you'll need your vendor pro services team to bring their A game for this to work, and ours certainly did in this case. You'll notice the overall green bars are the same amount of total implementation and deployment time being used. We basically just juggled when the business became aware of those capabilities. What that means is you have the same total time, but by shifting when the business was made aware of the technology, you change the perception of value. On a standard deployment, the time to perceived value may be 18 months. But with our juggled timeline, the perceived time to value was just 3 months. What that creates is a real sense of inertia around your project. Now I'll note, we only socialized our initial business partner, the media team. Since their use cases were prioritized first, we still needed to control the perception of all the other groups who would also benefit later in the value realization cycle. If we'd told everyone initially, then all groups outside of media would have been asking, "Where's my value?" long before we were ready to begin bringing them on board. I'll also note that you need your vendors to cooperate with shifting the deployment schedule. You'll need to make the case to them that it's in their best interest to shift the approach. If you take no action to deploy until the contracts are signed, then the perception of value by the organization will be significantly lower, which then impacts a host of items your vendors should be concerned about, including contract renewals, licensing upsells, vendor time spent justifying investments, etc. All of these tactics then combine to grow the business value faster than awareness. Again, if you look at a typical marketing technology deployment, you first have to socialize the project with the business, so organizational awareness grows long before you're ready to begin demonstrating value. You move way far to the right on the awareness continuum before completing the implementation and starting to demonstrate value. Unfortunately, by that point, you've lost the perception of momentum. Before you get to value, you'll likely be getting questions from the org like, "Why isn't this project complete yet?" And "When will we start realizing value from the solution?" That's not really a fault of your deployment. It's just that the business had to know so far in advance that the perception of value is diminished. People are thinking, "This is taking forever." So what we did with Audience Manager is first, we used the hybridized CoE and the co-ownership approach we've already talked about to raise the baseline of the total value we were going to be able to realize. And then by shifting the deployment cycle so that we did a significant chunk of the production deployment before the org was made aware, it allowed us to be able to demonstrate value basically right on top of the org being made aware of the solution. So what you have is significantly more value attainable and a perception of more value faster. The kind of questions we then received after socializing the value were, "What additional resources do you need?" And "How can we use the capabilities you're delivering on our projects?" Those questions represented a shift in how the organization was thinking about our technology. So what were the results of those 3 tactics? By co-owning the technology, our media team was able to drive a 14-to-1 ROI for year 1 of the deployment, which is pretty awesome. And that really came out of them having strong use cases and an ability to deploy those use cases on active campaigns. On top of that, the hybridized CoE approach enabled my team to activate use cases outside of media on our website and app, which more than doubled the total year one ROI. And finally, by changing around the rollout approach, we were able to grow the business value faster than the organizational awareness of the solution. Just 3 months from the production implementation start date, we had a completed deployment, we had started using advanced capabilities, and a perceived time to value of only 3 months. On top of that momentum, we've been able to unlock advanced use cases and incremental funding opportunities, which wouldn't have been possible with a standard approach. At this point, you may be wondering how you can apply this advice to the realities within your organization. I'd suggest starting your evaluation by looking at the tools your team owns directly. Are you deploying any new technologies in the next 6 to 12 months you can apply these principles to? If not, does your team already own technologies that are sitting on the shelf or are underutilized you can apply these techniques to? Here's an example of what that looks like for my own team's ownership relative to Hilton's total MarTech vendor stack on a dot-based visualization. If your house is completely in order, congratulations! You should now look at the technologies deployed or optimized by your team, current and future. Again, here's what that footprint looks like for my team, and you can see there's certainly a step change in the number of technologies and the associated opportunity to drive value. Finally, if there's nothing there, congratulations. You should now go look at all the technologies influenced by your team, current and future. Again, here's what that footprint looks like for my team. It's a significant step up in the number of technologies which can be influenced by an optimized approach. Undoubtedly, somewhere in the MarTech landscape at your company, you'll identify a place you can help extract the maximum value out of the MarTech investments being made using one or all of the tactics we've discussed today. Thank you for joining today's conversation. Once you've had a chance to implement these techniques, I'd love to hear about your smashing success over LinkedIn.
Thanks so much for watching this presentation. Join us on the Analytics Nexus Slack to talk with our presenters about this topic and more.